Welcome to Breaking Down Bits, a conversation about great comedy bits with the comedians who wrote and performed them.
Hey, Drew Jordan. How are you, sir?
What's up, Brian? I'm good. Wrapping up this is big. This is the 10th episode of Breaking Down Bits, the grand finale of season 1. And we have a very special guest on with us today. And man, it's just been a great run, and I appreciate the community of people really showing up lately, showing some love, speaking up about the different episodes, helping us understand what you are really enjoying about the podcast. So hopefully we can create more of that.
Yeah, I'm very proud about what we've put together. We've really tried to create a collection of timeless stuff that comics can go back to and visit. And actually a really good opportunity right now to talk about callbacks. So what did you learn from our last conversation with our guest, Ron G?
Ron G was great. I think he brought a pretty different perspective, especially since he's got some serious acting chops. He was thinking about he talked a lot about legacy. That was a big theme for sure. And I think as a young comic, you kind of can get excited about whatever jokes might get a room riled up. So you might find that you can really wreck a room with some fart and dick jokes. But Ron G would question you, is that who you want to be? You might be typecasting yourself. You're creating a character. If you're thinking about going into acting later, do you want to be the dick and fart joke guy, or do you want to be seen, just like be very conscious of the content you bring so that you're proud of it later on and create the character and the comedy that you will be proud of in the future?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people, including myself, connected to the what is your comedy legacy? That was a heavy one he got to us. So we got really deep in the episode. The other thing that he encouraged us to do is, so he had a lot of call to actions, but go out and experience life. So he's like, you're married, you're divorced, you have kids. That's great. Or get out there. Remember his example of being in a Black Lives Matter rally? And that was where you could tell he was drawing material from. And so just get out there and do things, and that'll inform your comedy. So if you haven't listened to the episode, make sure you get out there and find it. Breaking Down Bits is your canal to everywhere you can get our stuff. We're on Apple, we're on Google, we're on YouTube. If you want to watch the video version, that's where you get us. And please follow us on social media and all that fun, happy stuff.
And if you watch the video today, you'll see that Brian is rocking some very classy. He looks so smart in his glasses today. I feel just dumb now. I don't know.
Hey, at the end of season 10 or the end of season 1, episode 10, I'm starting to get a lot smarter with my comedy. And so I just wanted to play the part. No, I'm
wearing a bow tie next time. Okay?
Yeah, season 2, kick it off with a bow tie, man. Let's make it formal. But no, these are blue light blockers. So if you're spending a lot of time in front of the screen, protect your eyes, baby. That's what we got to do.
All right.
So get out there and find that episode on our website. Hey, I'm going to do one more quick thing because I think this is important, Drew. And you're on the show, so you can't knock me for doing this. I've got a comedy show that I've been producing. It's called The Riot, and we've got one coming up next Friday, September 25th, and we'll have actually every 2 weeks we have them. And what we're doing with that show is we're doing it live, in person, socially distanced, mask required, temperature at the door, all that fun stuff that makes it safe. But for people that aren't prepared to do that, or if you just don't get a ticket in time, you can watch it online, and I've got a live stream. So one of the things I wanted to throw out there is you can get to our website, theriothtx.com, theriothtx.com. Use discount code podcast, okay? Use the discount code podcast, and the live stream is only $5. And awesome. Drew, that live stream that we're doing, I connected to the soundboard. I've got the audience noise in the back. I just added a new camera with optical zoom to get that tight shot of the comics so you can actually see their face and their expressions.
I'm going to look so good.
Yes, you are, my
Saturday man. Doing my sweet time on The Riot.
That's right, man. I might have worn my glasses. So listen, theriothtx.com, discount code podcast. We hope to see you there. All right, Drew. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's bring in our guest, but first, a quick introduction.
Jon Reep is a nationally touring comedian whose contemporary country point of view has won over fans in comedy clubs, TV, and in film. As a stand-up, he's built a following through his hilarious stand-up comedy specials and as the winner of NBC's 5th season of Last Comic Standing. Jon is also the host of the popular podcast, Country-ish. As an actor, Jon has been seen in CW's Jane the Virgin, ABC's Blackish, HBO's Eastbound and Down, and as the Hemi guy from Dodge's popular ad campaign. On a nonstop tour since he burst into the scene, Jon performs to sold-out audiences at clubs and theaters across the country.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
Yeah, it's the real deal. That's right. Welcome, Jon Reep from Hickory. No.
That's right. You guys say it like this. Hickory.
That's
Yeah,
the one.
for whatever reason, we don't pronounce the O in Hickory. It's just Hickory. And then a little head wiggle comes with it. I think it means you're proud when you go like that,
Yeah.
like side to side is pride. Whereas if you're ashamed, you kind of go up and down like you're admitting defeat, So Hickory is this. The neighboring county, like Gastonia would be like this.
That is such a thing with small towns, though. The next town over is trash, but ours is amazing.
Right. They're making fun of us 2 doors down. Exactly.
Yeah.
My neck, by the way, is sore from doing that joke over the years. I still do it. Like, I'm not joking. I think my range of motion is not good. Like, that's as far as it goes that way. and that's as far as it goes that way. And I do believe it has to do with me shaking my head every time I say Hickory.
That's the price you pay for comedy, man. Jon, thanks so much for being on season 1's finale. Jon Reep on Breaking Down Bits. Just appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
So one of the first things we do, Jon, is we get to understand your story. And I've had the luxury of knowing your story for gosh, man, it's got to be about 15 years. You believe that, since Last Comic Standing? But that's where I found you. Me and my college roommates watching that show. I actually texted one of them yesterday. I'm like, hey, remember Jon? I'm like, absolutely. And then all of a sudden you're showing up on commercials for Dodge trucks and in one of my favorite TV shows. And it's been really cool to follow your career. But what we like to do is get behind the scenes, man, and find out. A lot of comics like to know where those breaks came for you in your career. So if it was Last Comic Standing, let us know, or something before that.
Well, I feel like, if you do this long enough, there are many different breaks, different ones. It's not just one thing, So I'll go from the very beginning. I started at Charlie Goodnight's Comedy Club in Raleigh, North Carolina. In high school, I was the class clown. My brother got it after me. My dad got it when he was in high school. Everyone said you should be a comedian. But in my hometown, there were no comedy clubs. So to me, it was just like a dream or a fantasy. It wasn't like a possibility. So then I leave Hickory to go to North Carolina State University, and there happens to be Charlie Goodnight's Comedy Club right there, right next to the campus. And I was a theater major. And my friends are like, dude, you should go check out the comedy. And I got nervous about it. And so I remember, I think it was a Friday night. I just walked up cold. I didn't have a ticket. I said, hey, ma'am, it's my first, I've never seen a comedy club in my life. Can I just stick my head in the door and see what it looks like in there? And she's like, yeah, get in here. and so I open the door and I look in there, and there was this girl on stage, and it was a packed house. And I forgot the joke, but she told a joke and it worked, and the whole crowd just erupted with laughter. And I was like, oh, that's power. I want this. I want this. And then I shut the door and I started getting really nervous, because now my fantasy has turned into a reality, except now I got to go do the work.
Yeah.
And now I have a chance to screw up my fantasy. Because in my head, I'm killing.
Here we all are. Yeah.
And now I have the chance where it's like, yeah, we're going up there, big boy. Think you could do this? And so I was nervous for a while. I avoided it for a little bit. And then I went up on the open mic nights. And they were teaching a class. And the guy basically told me, like, if you don't take this class, you're not going to get on stage. I said, all right, I'm taking the class. And so that helped. That was just the baby steps. I just kept doing that, going back to open mics, getting as much stage time as I could. And that slowly started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So now I'm like a really good feature act. High energy, got a good solid 25 minutes. And then sometimes if a headliner don't show up, they'll throw me up there to do 45 and stretch and that kind of stuff. But I didn't get I'd say the first break was, I was winning these local talent contests, they've got different ones that pop up all the time. Mm-hmm. And I won one in Charlotte. And then I was asked to audition for the Aspen Comedy Festival, mm-hmm. which I don't know if they do that anymore. There's Aspen and there's Montreal. And both Montreal and Aspen asked me to come be a new face.
Wow.
And so I went to Montreal as a new face, did well enough to, gain some interest. People wanted to take meetings with me and that kind of stuff. And so I went out to LA after that and just took these meetings. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what they wanted. It was just a general meeting, but I thought, am I supposed to come in here with charts and graphs and I don't
PowerPoint? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got ideas. How much time do you have? And so I walked in there and I said, well, one lady was very nice. I said, because I said, am I supposed to pitch you my sitcom idea? She goes, yeah, go ahead. Like this means nothing. I got 5 minutes to go. And I did. She goes, hey, that was not bad for your first pitch. That was not bad. You have a nice day. But, it was more of a general meeting. I met with Ron Howard's Imagine TV and CBS, some other places. They all said the same thing. You're funny and you're physical and you act out your bits like a natural actor. You should at least come to LA and maybe audition for commercials and see what happens and try doing comedy in LA. I was like, okay, well, if they're telling me to do that, I think I should do that. And so I moved to Los Angeles in the year 2000. And I had a buddy who came out before me. I had a very interesting group of guys that I came up with. You know how every comedian sort of has those core group of dudes that are going through the same thing at the same time, So mine was Jeff Richards, who was on SNL and Mad TV. He's one of the only guys in the history of the world to be both hired and fired from both Mad TV and SNL. And then so he got out to LA before me. So when I got out there, I crashed on his couch for a little while. But that's what started the LA train going, So it went from open mics, getting some good feature spots, winning little local things here and there, getting a buzz, and then applying for the huge festival and doing well there. Yeah, I can keep talking, but I don't know if you have questions at this point.
No, that's great. I think there's a lot of comics in that stage where maybe you start to kind of excel locally. You start to kind of, okay, and then maybe you do win one of those local competitions or you do well in it. You're starting to find your voice. Right. We're in Houston, and so there are some guys, that are doing the runs over to San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, starting to get some extra opportunities outside of their city, which feels like the first step to kind of taking it to the next level. What advice would you give to guys who are, looking to take that first step to get a road gig? What do you have to do to get a road gig? What did you do to kind of start connecting with these clubs? Maybe a little insight there you could bring to some of the comics that are kind of getting to that space.
Well, you're talking about guys doing gigs locally, right? We're talking feature acts or headliners?
I mean, for me and Brian right now, we're still personally in a place where, a feature is kind of even a stretch for us. We do 15, 20 minutes is what we typically get. So I think there's a lot of guys though listening though who do have a strong feature set.
Yeah,
might be headliners. But yeah, let's talk like the feature. So let's say you got 25 minutes. What you should be doing at that point?
I'm curious of how it works these days. Because when I started out, a feature, you could make a living as just a feature and not have to know the headliner.
Gotcha.
So I feel like nowadays most clubs are saying, okay, so we're going to bring in this headliner, and he always brings his buddy the feature. Okay. So we don't have to book a feature. And if you show up without one, they're like, oh, okay, well, let's go get Randy. He's available, and he can do 15 clean. And then we don't have to put him in a hotel. So I feel like the feature spot is dwindling, or it's getting pulled. It's not what it used to be. So fortunate for me, I started at a time where I didn't have to know any headliners. I could just be a high energy feature act, and the clubs would like that. So what I did, this was interesting. I was a communication major, and I was working as an intern at a local TV station.
Nice.
The PBS of North Carolina.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. There's PBS in North Carolina?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
We've got great shows like Legislative Week in Review and North Carolina Now.
Okay, stop. Actually, let's just stop the podcast. I'm going to go watch some North Carolina PBS.
Snooze fest, man. But those are the shows. I learned a lot, like behind the scenes. I knew how to work the cameras, the boom mics, the lavaliers, all that crap. And the guys who worked there were my friends. We would hang out after and have beers together. And they all knew I was doing stand-up. Mm-hmm. So one night I said, hey, guys, this weekend they asked me if I could feature. What if you guys bring in some cameras and record my set? Ooh, and so these guys were like, sure, just give us some beer. So I had like 3 cameras in the club with 2 channels of audio. And I had a great set. And I took that, and I went back and I edited that to where the crowd was a little louder than it should have been.
Put it on VHS.
Oh yeah.
I put graphics on it.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we also had all these recyclable tapes that VHS tapes that just laying around that no one used. And so I had free tapes, and I had decks. I could make 20 recordings at one time.
Nice.
So it cost me $0 to come up with an amazing press kit. And what I did was just cold call them. There was this magazine back in the day that had every comedy club in it, like the address, the phone number. I forgot the name of it. But I got a hold of that thing, and I just sent this packet out to any comedy club that I could get the address for, made a fake little resume, put a stupid headshot in there. And slowly over time, the offers were coming in because it was all like, he's clean, he's high energy, he's happy. He's not going to do anything to piss the crowd off. Let's go ahead and have him in here. So I did that. That's how I started my feature career. And I did it all over the road. I quit my job to do it. 1998, I quit that TV job. I walked into my boss's office. I said, well, I've been doing stand-up. And I just got all these offers for the rest of the year. I think I'm going to take them. And he's like, well, when that doesn't work out, we might have a spot for you here. So he was cool about it, But I never looked back. I just jumped head first. I was young and stupid and didn't know the consequences. And I luckily had a credit card or two. And I basically lived off my credit cards. I mean, you make no money as a feature. I was making $50 a show, or something like that. And I would have a gig in Fargo, North Dakota. And then the next night I was supposed to be on stage in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And this was driving. I couldn't afford flying, so I had to drive. I drove my Suzuki Sidekick all over this country. And
sick.
I did that for about, let's see here, 98. Then I was out for about 2.5 years.
Wow.
And then when you move to LA, it's different. That doing comedy in LA is way different because there's not as many clubs as that are accessible like they are where we're at, you know?
Yeah.
And you gotta get to know those people. That's like a whole nother thing. It's like, well, I know these people. I got a good reputation here. Now, if I go over there, they're gonna be like, "Who are you? What do you do?" You're like, I gotta start all over again. So that's how it worked out for me. But I don't know how features do it now. I think the trick now is find a headliner, and tell him you'll be low maintenance and carry his bags, and maybe you'll have that kind of luck. I really don't know.
That's helpful. I mean, honestly, what you said really the medium has changed, but the technique has not, the hustle has not. So what we're seeing and what we're advised to do these days, obviously, is we don't have to do VHS, but you do the same thing as far as getting all the sound, jacking up the crowd audio, and getting that tape, and then getting that on the internet where people can find it, and then finding as many email addresses as you can to bookers. Yeah. And get the word out and then you talked about energy on stage, which is so key. I love that you keep bringing that up, because if you're a feature, you want to get the crowd going, and sometimes they're going to want you to work clean. So you mentioned that too, right? Sometimes they're going to ask you, so you got to be prepared for that. Yeah. So those are timeless. That's timeless advice. One quick thing I wanted to ask, follow up, is the 2.5 years you spent on the road, and then you mentioned you had to go start over again in LA. Would you do it that way again?
Yeah, I think I did the right thing.
Good.
Because New York would have been, it's interesting. I don't know how I would have panned out in New York. I knew less people in New York. And so that may have taken me longer to get my foot in the door of a club there. The great thing about the Comedy Store in LA is it's like a fraternity. And if you can get in the Comedy Store in LA, it's like you're a frat member forever. And that place is like a frat house. I mean, they got 3 different rooms going off at all times with comedy. There are people just wandering the halls going, what's in this room? Oh, that's the belly room. There's some comedy up there. And well, what's this one? No, that's the main stage. So where's the bathroom? Oh, there's this little secret, and it's haunted. You know, so right. It's old and it's fun. I mean, and it's run by comedians, really. So that place, I was very happy to. I don't know if there's something like that exists in New York. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Cellar maybe, but not. I don't know. Showtime has that doc coming out October 4th. I'm real excited about the Comedy Store. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have performed in New York many times. I did Dangerfields. The first time I did it was Dangerfields Comedy Club, and this was a random booking that I got on my own, and they're like, yeah, you could do Wednesday night. And I'm like, oh, cool, 20 minutes Wednesday night, and I get in there, and it's like maybe 30 people there, and they're all from Europe, like they're on a trip. And they don't understand. They don't understand my Burger King bit. You know, you mean you have a king of burgers? Yeah, it's a restaurant. And so I really had to explain it to him, and it took the fun out of it. And I could not wait for it to be over with. But yeah, I mean, that city is so huge, you never know what's going to walk in there and sit down.
That's so funny.
Same thing with the Comedy Store. You get all kinds of people. It's just such a huge city that at any given time, like if I go to Raleigh, Charlie Goodnight's Comedy Club, it's going to be probably 80% white people who have jobs and, probably go to church. But if I go to New York City, it's who knows what's going to walk in there.
Yeah.
So that's also good about the Comedy Store, because it keeps you on your toes of like, you have to learn how to do these bits in different situations. And one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn was I had to follow Andrew Dice Clay at the Comedy Store. And I was a huge Andrew Dice Clay fan growing up. I mean, at one point I had, he had a dual cassette that he put out called The Day the Laughter Died. And I had it memorized. And I was such a huge fan of him. Anyway, he brought me up, you know, and I get on stage. He's like, all right, one more time, Energize Clay. What would it sound like if he were from Hickory? And then I started trying to do an impression of him. And people were like,
oh,
Oh no.
Just do your thing, man. You know, do your thing.
Wow.
It's a transition. I was trying to do okay.
no, that's the anthropology of comedy is what we're talking about here. You know, it changes from market to market. That's a good observation.
Sure. I love the fact that you picked. I love the fact that, Jon, you keep mentioning high energy. Do you think some of that came? You mentioned you were a theater. You did some time in theater in college. Did that give you something? What got you to the place where you are able to be? One thing I noticed just in your comedy in general, I was going to save this till we got to the clip, but who cares? Your vocal variety is crazy. You have like different gears that you like hop in and out of, you know, and stronger accent, less accent. And you got you're not spastic by any means, not crazy physical, but you do use physicality very well. Yeah. Were you always that high energy, or did you have to work to get that on stage?
I was not always that. When I first started, I was not that high energy. But then I remember, I think it was one certain bit that I knew required high energy. And then when I did this bit, the laughter was so much bigger and lasted so much longer that I realized, why am I not doing that all the time? Gotcha. So I would, it was a bit where I was making fun of mascots and their stupid sound effects that they have at games, you know, like the Panthers, they do a growl and all this stuff. And I would end up, I made fun of the Cowboys, and then I did a Dolphin, but no, I did the Cowboys last. I did the gunshots, and then I walked over to the stool and pretended to sniff cocaine off the stool because that's Michael Irvin when he got in trouble for that.
Oh yeah,
and that took that joke to another level, and it's all acted out. It's a punchline, but it's a physical punchline, and the crowd's like and now I go like, wow, how do I follow that with more talking? So
yeah.
And also, I will be honest, the first time I featured was in front of an all-black audience at Good Nights. It was like a Wednesday night. The headliner did not show up, and the headliner was like a famous black guy. I forgot his name, but he had sold out the room. And
Dave something, I don't know, whatever.
They go, Jon, you got to go up there now. I'm like, okay. I said, I've never done 30 minutes in one time before. He goes, oh, you can do it. And I used to dance. I used to make fun of dancing by dancing. I used to call myself the Hickory dance machine. And I would go on stage and start dancing. Whatever music they're playing, I would just dance to it. And there's nothing funnier to an all-black crowd than a white guy going. So I got up there and I'm dancing my ass off, and I start making up dances. I'm doing a rake, a mop, I'm doing a shovel. I got all kinds of dances I've made up through the years, and that's like this. And then the music stops. I'm like, so I'm not from around here, and they're like, why is he talking? These things to be dancing, right? And so it was hard for me to follow the dancing. Plus, that was the first time I ever tried to feature, but I did learn a lesson. High energy, people like it, but there's a fine line of being cheesy about it. I try to do a little bit of both. I'm not afraid to get cheesy, but I also don't try to get too cheesy. I just like being physical, like getting into it. That's the kind of comedy I like watching, is when someone is really getting into it. Yeah. So maybe that's where it came from.
That's the first time I've heard the term physical punchline. I love that, which is great. So let's get into writing. writing comedy. Real open-ended question. How does Jon Reep write comedy?
I'm about to lose AirPod.
Oh, yes, I know that sound.
It's a sad. It's always one ear first, and the one ear is like, bah, 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 and you go to solo, and it's not the same anymore.
And so you hear go, I'm like, oh, here it comes. And does that give me 15 minutes?
You never know. Like you charge it for 30 seconds, and it's good for like an hour, and then I don't know. Those things are crazy. I don't understand charging technology.
Well, how I write today is different than how I used to write. When you're starting out, it's all brand new, so you don't know what to do. You don't know what works for you. So what I would do is come up with an idea. Like, okay, mascots. I'll make fun of mascots, and I would sit down. Actually, it would start in my head, and I mean this particular bit started while I was sitting in traffic. And I heard on the radio they played the growl, this stupid panther growl. I'm like, they play that like at the end of every stupid commercial. Like I get it, we're a panther, but that was getting on my nerves. And then I started brainstorming what other blah 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 blah. So in my head, I'm coming up with this funny bit, and then I get home. I'm like, well, let me write this funny bit down, what I think it is, how I think it should be worded, right? And then I'll write a bunch. I'll write way too much. And then I'm like, am I supposed to memorize this? Like I wrote all this stuff and now I'm supposed to memorize it, which you can do. But then there's also, getting up there trying to perform a written piece that you're trying to get exactly right can sound like you are delivering the speech. Whereas if you just got the bullet points, you're just like, all right, well, I know when I get here that I'm going to say that because to me that's funny. And then from here, I'll bridge that and I'll do this. So I kind of write off stage in my head. I'll take it to some paper and then I'll take it to the stage. And then that paper, like if it was 3 sheets of paper, it turns into like one note. And it's just like, well, I don't need to say all this because I know what it is. So I'll just write, little cheat words. Sir Purr. That's the name of the panther mascot. Sir Purr. Why is he a sir? Has he been knighted? So like I have all these little words, key words that remind me what the funny part of the bit is so that I'm not trying to read it in my head and perform it like, some Disney World character, which a lot of people fall into, especially when you get going in the beginning. At some point, you got to make it look natural, mm-hmm. And that's a whole nother thing. So
does that mean that the wording of your jokes changes night to night slightly, or do you really like, or maybe early in a joke, is it pretty flexible?
Yeah, it's pretty flexible. I sometimes let the crowd pick what they thought was the funny way of doing it. Now, and sometimes I'll do it two or three different ways in the same night at different shows, and whatever sticks. Because sometimes you don't know. You just don't know. There's 5 different ways of doing the same joke, and then the crowd will tell you. It's all trial by error.
Gosh, that makes me miss open mics and doing double shows. It's just there's something that feels so great about being able to, like, if there's a certain thing you're trying to work on and you could hit it a couple of times a night and go, okay, this time I'm going to try it this way, and this time I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. Yeah, and you kind of see which way works the best over time. Obviously, any one audience, you can't probably trust any one audience, but
right, it
just feels so good. That feels tangible. You're like, this is the best way. There's no better feeling than feeling like you stumbled into the perfect way to set up a joke.
Yeah, and when it works, and it's for the first time, you're like, I am a god. I am a god. And I had a thought. Yeah. I said the thought. Mm-hmm. They laughed out loud. I am a god.
Magic.
And then you do it like 5 years in a row. You're like, I hate my life to write a new joke.
That's the hardest thing about comedy. It's the best and worst thing, right? Like all these musicians can write one hit song and just play that for the rest of their lives. Yeah. As comedians, you can never stop working. You have to keep working. But what would you rather do? Like, I'd rather tell a new joke than something I know works. I'd rather tell that new joke, always.
I will say this. There's different types, like a joke, right? A setup and a punchline joke. Those don't have longevity. But if you have a good story that is acted out, that also has some jokes in there, that can last forever because people like the story. They want to come back. They'll say, Randy, you got to hear this story. The one about the pool, you got to hear it. It's different. You got to hear it. And so they come wanting to hear certain bits if they're stories. Never like, give me the knock knock joke again. It's like, tell me the one about the thing. It went like,
Yeah.
So in a weird way, I got lucky with that because I do have a lot of stories.
That's a really good advice. I'm similar, Jon, in my approach. I tell more story type stuff and then, set up punchline as I tell the story. And that's part of it. And you get this insecurity that the same people are going to come see you and you're telling the same jokes. And then, you feel like you got to give them something new. But I told that to some of my friends that come to my shows and they're like, no, we love hearing that over and over again. And I'm like, oh, okay, you do. Yeah. I was insecure about telling it again because you were here. And so that was interesting feedback.
That's the difference. If it's just a setup punchline, then, those are easy to remember for a lot of people, but they can't remember the whole story. And so when they hear the story again, they're like, oh, yeah, I forgot that part. Okay, cool.
There's got to be, there's certainly, I think off the top of my head, I can think of a few comics who probably made their stamp on comedy because they had one story that was so prolific that it, like, I think Bert Kreischer, like the Machine story just solidified him as a solid comic. Like everyone knows him because of that one story. It's kind of crazy how that you're right. It wasn't a one-liner. It was a funny, 5-10 minute story that is just sticks with you.
There are people, like I have a story about my dad almost drowning, trying to fix a hole in the bottom of our swimming pool by wearing a backpack full of rocks and trying to breathe through a garden hose. That happened when I was like 9 years old, and I was just supposed to hold the hose at the top. So he almost died that day, and I've been telling that story forever. If it's gotten to the point now, if I don't do that story and I'm doing a meet and greet, people are mad at me for not telling the story. They're like, I brought these people here to hear the pool story, and you didn't do it.
Oh.
It's like, I thought you'd like to hear something new.
Well, that kind of does help us transition to the next question. How do you prepare for a set? Now yours is probably even more complicated now because there's certain bits that you have to stick in there. But what goes through your head as you're preparing for a set? And also, if you don't mind, follow that up with what's the last things you do before you step on stage?
Well, and that's changed throughout the years too. It used to be I would write down a set list. Like I go, well, I know I'm going to start with this bit. I'll start with this bit. That last word could lead to that. I can make that work. And then I'm sitting here writing a set list out. And just writing it would put it in my brain. And I wouldn't need to have it in my hand. I wouldn't need to have it on stage. Just writing it and looking at it and looking at it and really thinking about it, like 30 minutes before you go on stage, if you can get some peace and quiet and really think about it, that helps me.
Can I interject and say, when you did the order of your jokes, were there certain jokes that you always put before other? Was there an order to it generally, or was it just really random and you could do anything in any order?
Generally, I had a bit of an order to some of them. It depends on how long the set is. Am I doing 7 minutes here? Am I doing 30? Am I doing an hour?
Sure.
All that helps you whittle down what that set will be and what order it comes in. But generally, I have like an opening thing, which will always be the opening thing, And then you've got the closing thing, that's going to be the closing thing. It's the stuff in the middle that I'm not sure what the order is going to be. And sometimes when you get into it, it's not what it started. And as you're thinking as you're doing the joke, this is another great level that happens, by the way. After doing it for so long, it's great what your brain can do. Our brains are amazing. I can be on stage delivering a story and a joke and have the crowd in the palm of my hands and getting everything right and being physical and acting it all out. And at the same time, in my brain, I'm having a conversation of like, okay, so you probably got another 3 minutes of this one. We'll probably go into the Panther story after this. That's a good closer. Well, that one lady dropped a drink. We maybe do a callback on that. I got the light. Shit, got the light. So and no one knows that conversation is happening in my head. It's really crazy how when you get to that level, how that can happen.
Have you seen that Dimitri Martin special where he does that in like inner dialogue throughout this? It's great. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
I have not, but I love Dimitri Martin. But yeah, so it's the set depends on the gig. You know, if I'm doing a corporate thing, then I know I'm not going to be doing any dick jokes probably. If I'm doing
probably.
Yeah, I always say probably. I used to do this too when I did colleges a bunch. The colleges actually pushed me into headliner status in a weird way because I didn't have an hour, but I told them I did. And so when they booked you, they booked you for an hour. I just BS'd it, right?
Did you dance for like 30 minutes up top? Or?
Yeah, man. If I was out, I was just dancing, man. I'd start dancing and like just try to do crowd work. But it really forced my hand to come up with something immediately. And it's amazing what you can do. If you're a naturally funny person, it's amazing what you can do when you're someone holds your feet to the fire, you know, like what you could come up with. But so these kids that were running, you know, it's usually kids of the college that are running the student activities boards or whatever, you know, and they don't know anything. They're just kids, and they'll come back to the green room and go like, "Oh, Mr. Reep, they said you were a clean comedian. You're going to be a clean comedian, right?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm clean. You don't have to worry about me. I mean, I might say ass, I might say hell, but I won't say GDMF. But I might say goddamn motherfucker." And just to look at their face and be like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm kidding."
We have one question from somebody, and then we'll get into the video. So Michelle asked, "Do you get a lot of hecklers, and if so, how do you deal with them?" Pretty popular question we get out there. Thank you, Michelle.
You know, Jon Reep is conceal and carry, so he's always ready for a good heckle.
You know what? I'm lucky. I don't get a lot. I have obviously gotten hecklers over the years, but the ones that I get, I mean, it depends on what your definition of heckler is. To me, a heckler is someone who stands up and says, "You suck," right? I don't get that. What I get is someone finishing my joke before I get to it, or wanting to hear, thank you, or wanting to hear a different bit, you know, or laughing.
Someone's freebirding you, basically.
Yeah. So, and that could be or they just yell out "Hemi" a bunch of times.
Do you have a joke about the Hemi thing? Does that get into your set? Yeah.
Yeah, I got a whole chunk about that whole experience that I could go to in those times, just to make them happy, and then it's over with. Yeah. But it's funny, like I like to pretend that I'm all into it, you know, like the Hemi thing. Like I really don't care. I'm an actor. You know, they paid me to say those words.
You drive a smart car. Who gives?
I mean, the car that I own is a VW Beetle.
Seriously?
My mom drives it, but I own it. And I drive a Buick Enclave. So I'm not really a car guy.
They didn't give you a truck for doing all those commercials? Like that should be fun.
A while back. Yeah, a while back. Yeah, it was kind of fun. I did 6 of those commercials. After the third one, I told my agent, I said, hey, man, see if you can get a vehicle this time. And he's like, okay. And he was good. Like, he calls them up right then, and he makes it their problem. He goes, hey, I don't know if you know this. Like, I don't know if you know this, but your Dodge Hemi guy is driving around Los Angeles right now in a Suzuki Sidekick. And they're like, we can't have him seen in a Suzuki Sidekick.
It's off brand. That's it. Yeah.
So they go, well, let's get him in a truck. And so I went down later that day to a dealership, got a new truck.
Yeah.
Because the agent was smart. He made it sound like it was their problem.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Nowadays, you can set up some sort of like someone comes up to you at the gas station with a camera. Oh, the Hemi guy's driving a. Yeah. You gotta play it out like, oh, I don't know. I've
done that. I've had a lot of fun messing with people with that. We even shot a spoof commercial where it's you can find this probably at I think if you go to hickoryliveshow.com, you can find this video. It's on my YouTube. But anyway, so the idea is, what would it look like had the Hemi guy grown up, you know? Got a white collar job. Now he's a little sophisticated. And in a world where the Verizon "Can you hear me now" guy can switch to Sprint, why can't the Hemi guy switch to Toyota?
Yeah.
So,
you should pitch that.
So the idea was, now it's me, and I'm driving a Prius, right? And I'm sitting at a stoplight, and these two rednecks pull up next to me in a big, big, loud truck. And they look down on me at my Prius, and they go, what is that, a hybrid? And then I go, yeah, it's a hybrid. And then the light turns green, and we floor it, and then they run out of gas. And I just keep going, and it says, yeah, sometimes you just have to move on.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Very good. Close that chapter. I'm gonna cue up the video, Jon. So here, if you can see there in the bottom right, Jon Reep, Gingerbeard Man. This is a special that you did. I believe it was released last year. Can you tell us just a little bit of context that night? Where were you, and anything else you remember specifically about that evening?
Yeah, this special I shot in Chicago years ago. I knew it just sort of came out, but it's been sitting on a shelf for a long time, for whatever reason. So I'm kind of like, when the company bought it, I think it was Nacelle and Comedy Dynamics that ended up buying it and putting it out. I was like, let me do it again. Let me reshoot it. I can make it better. You know, I've changed some of the jokes. I've made them better. And that costs money. And I didn't like my hair in this. They're like, no, we're going to take this one, and that's going to be out there. So, but it is funny. The jokes are good. It's just, I wish I could do it better. It's not brand new, but it's new to you guys. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's got some good bits in there. And Chicago crowds get it. They're cool.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
These kids got it easy with the ginger word, man. When I was a kid, it was way worse. I wish it called me Ginger. 2 of them killed me. One, this is dumb, it was just called Red the Pimple Head. I'm like, it rhymes. But this one, and if you know it, I want you to finish it, all right? I don't even like saying it. This might be a Southern thing, but if you know it, just finish it. All right, ready? It goes like this. Red on the head like the... Say it again. Wait. Red on the head like a pecker on a poodle. I didn't say it, he said it. But you're exactly right, man. But it was worse. That's the nice version. What I got called was red on the head like a dick on a dog. What the hell? I was 9 years old. I was coming out of a matinee movie theater. It was a bright sunny day and my hair was on fire. This 13-year-old girl looked at me. She goes, red on the head like a dick on a dog. I was like, what did I do to you? This is horrible. You're not even saying I'm the dog. The dog is literally a step above what you're calling me. Understand? I'm a dog's dick. I will take Ginger over dog dick every day of the week. I found this one out too. I'm like the rarest of the rare ginger. I'm a blue-eyed ginger. So I'm like 0.001% of the population or something. I'm the biggest minority there is. I want my free shit. I don't know what it is. Maybe some sunblock. Big hat, umbrella, something. You understand? I'm a unicorn. Like I could reach in my pocket, throw some glitter, and be out of here like that. You better put a net on me right now. Found this one out too. If I were to go to a sperm bank to make a donation. No, this is fact. You can Google this. If I were to go to a sperm bank, they'd be like, "We're good." They ain't taking ginger sperm. They ain't taking it. That is insulting, ladies. Here's what you're saying without saying it. You're going like, "No, you're cool, man. I like you. You're funny. Just don't want more of you running around." We're hoping you just die off. We'll be done with you. Now get out of here, Ginger. Get out of here! That is horrible. Which is why, if I get lucky tonight, I ain't pulling out. I gotta do this for my people.
It's so good. One thing I love is just the biographical nature. I feel like when you share these jokes and this story, I feel like I am getting to know you a little bit better. I'm understanding where you come from. We all have those relatable things that happen. Mm-hmm. My best friend growing up was a redhead, and these guys would actually come up to us and have these crazy, "Oh, what's up, fire engine head?" And like, right. It was so weird. And then they didn't have anything to say to me, and so they'd say like, "Dookie Brown head," and I'm like, okay, well, I can't fight you over that. But it brought me back as I heard your jokes. It just connected so well. It put me back into my story of growing up. I think that's what comedy is supposed to do. It's just that connection was so real, and I appreciate that so much. For these jokes.
It's a true thing. I mean, I got Red the Pimple Head. That was from, we went to a fair, like a county fair, and you know the clown and the dunk tank you throw baseballs at?
Yes.
And I was standing with my friends. I thought like I was kind of a cool dude with my friends, and then this older clown man calls me Red the Pimple Head. And all of my friends laughed really hard and looked at me. I was like, I don't have any pimples. Look. And I was like, man, now my brother calls me that all the time. And he had not heard that one before.
That's man, I almost want to go to a fair whenever they can take place again and draw material from that damn clown. It's a great source of material.
What a great
let me tell you when I first watched this special. This is an interesting thought for you. I want to get out of you is a friend of mine, a comic here locally, great comic. His name's Grady Pruitt. He's got a bit that has the same punch that you do about that same situation, but you enter it differently. And so it's almost like it was a parallel universe. I don't think you got it from Grady. Grady didn't get it for you, but I had to show him like, dude, look. And it was he goes into the sperm bank and they say, "We're good." And so I guess in all of your traveling, all that stuff, how many times has that happened where you kind of arrive at the same punch, even though you got there maybe in a different way? And then what do you do? I'm sure
it has. See, I don't even know who this person is.
Yeah.
But it's happened. It happens. It's a real thing. And I was trying to write a new bit not long ago about ironing boards and how when you open an ironing board, it makes this god-awful noise like a witch is getting sacrificed. And I'm like, why do we have to have these weird sounding ironing boards? I sat down. I was like, I'm going to write about ironing boards. And I went, I was 10 minutes. I had some ironing board stuff. And I go like, wait a minute, somebody's got to have an ironing board bit. So I just typed in ironing board bit comedian, and Brian Regan already had, of
course he did,
the best ironing board bit. It was way better than what I was going to do. And I got very discouraged. But I also don't think it's my job to go research every little thought that I have in my brain.
Great point.
So, if it happens, it happens. As long as it's not like the exact same words in a row, delivered the same way, people are going to say, we're good. People are going to say like, yeah, gotcha. Or, whatever it is. These little mannerisms, that's not thievery. That's just connecting with your audience a little bit. I don't think it's real thievery unless it's an entire bit.
Yeah, and you protect yourself by being biographical with it, kind of like what we talked about earlier, right? And so then nobody can have your story. That would be impossible. So
and also the matinee movie happened too. It was I walked outside. We were, when you walk outside of it's like a daytime, and you were dark.
The eyes are adjusting, and
and you sneeze. You start sneezing, and I was sneezing, and my hair was just like moving. And this girl saw my hair and started laughing, and then said, "Red on the head like a dick on a dog." And I hadn't heard that yet. I hadn't heard many cuss words at that point either. But to have a girl say that my hair looks like a dog's dick, I was just like, what? It's not that bright. But all that comes from real pain. That was part of the album Ginger Pain that I did. I'm actually more proud of my audio stuff than my video stuff. I don't know why. For whatever reason, when cameras get in there, it changes everything. But my favorite, the work I'm most proud of is Jon Reep, bless his heart. That's the first one I ever did. Recorded it in Houston at the Laugh Stop.
Oh, wow. It's gone now, man. It hurts when it's gone. Yeah.
And then after that, I did one called just Ginger Pain. Yep. Like it's a spoof of Prince's Purple Rain. I'm on a ginger motorcycle. Instead of purple, everything is ginger. It's Ginger Pain. And that story's in there with that bit. But and also I never really talked about being a ginger till recently, because I feel like that's what everyone's. It seems like I have to do it now because everyone's trying to align themselves with a group. Like I never wanted to be a group. I didn't want to be Southern. I just happened to be Southern. I didn't start out writing going fishing's like this, and I like my truck. I don't have those jokes. I talk about my family. I just sound this way. I never wanted to be put into a niche. But now when I'm watching comedians, they're like, well, my mother's side is half this, and then is half this, and that makes me is this, and I'm special because of that. I'm like, I don't even know what my DNA is. I have no interest in finding out. So at some point, I go, well, if everyone's doing that, I can talk about being a redheaded kid, and I'll put myself in that group. And that's what I did it.
We got two more questions for you, Jon, then we're going to let you off the hook. Okay. So one's going to come from one of our fans and listeners on the show, Clinton Shorter, a comedian here in Houston, very funny guy. Which comedians inspired you? We don't ask this enough, Drew. Who inspired you?
Brian Regan, Steve Martin. I guess Bill Cosby. It sucks saying that, but it's true. Like when I was a kid, we could all watch Bill Cosby, and he's a master storyteller.
Yeah,
and not so much a setup punchline guy, but his stories are great and hilarious. Steve Martin is a sophisticated stupid, which I also like. Brian Regan is physical and smart and humble, and I like that too. So those are the guys that make me laugh.
Love it. Last one is a little harder. It's something we do with all of our guests. You're the last one, season finale. This is very final type question. What joke or what do you want written on your tombstone to be remembered by?
Well, I think it's just going to say one word, and it's just going to say bicycle.
That's
because that's something I've been saying at the end of my bits for 20 years now. I walk off stage, I go, bicycle.
Ah, yes. Nice.
I've been saying it for 20 years, and sometimes people catch on and go, why do you do that? Why do you say bicycle?
Yeah.
I go, well, I got it from a roommate, guy from Texas. When I moved to LA, I had a Texan roommate, and this guy was like Western kind of guy. And I let Jeff Richards stay in my room one weekend while I was out of town. And my roommate, Joe, was cool with that. He's like, oh, great. This guy's on SNL. I'd like to pick his brain. This is awesome. Yeah, he can stay here. I don't mind. Well, Jeff was kind of an a-hole, and he like messed up my room and was playing music real loud at ungodly hours, and Joe couldn't sleep, and Jeff was not even trying to talk to him or buy him a cheeseburger or anything, right? And so Joe got mad. Now, all this happened while I was out of town. Joe got mad and kicked him out. And so when I came back, I talked to Jeff first. And he goes, yeah, I'm sorry, man. Joe's pissed off. He goes, but he left me this funny voicemail. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's listen to the voicemail. And it starts off like this. It's like, hey, you listen to me, you son of a bitch. You've been here 2 goddamn days. You ain't as much as bought me a fucking cheeseburger. I can't sleep at night. I hear you in another room jacking off from the phone. I can't sleep at night. I had to go call a sleep doctor, get more sleeping pills. That's it, buddy. I want you out of here. I want you out and gone by tomorrow. That is it. I've had enough. Bicycle. So I laughed my head off because he went from like anger to cute. Like he was like, I'm going to kill you. I hate you. Bicycle. Like, who does that?
So that's your last words on stage. It sounds like you've already got it set up.
That's it. That's how I'm going out. Bicycle.
That is so good. Jon, thanks again for just coming and chopping it up with us. So many good nuggets and thoughts and things we learned today. Where can people find you online? What's out right now that you'd like people to check out?
Well, I've been really working hard on my podcast. Since the pandemic, it's hard to get out and tour right now. So I've been putting all my creative energies into my podcast. I don't know if you can read that. Does that read right?
Country-ish.
Country-ish podcast right there. We have segments. We got celebrities. We've got the Alan Jackson.
Wow.
We've got John Stamos's brother, Marcus Stamos, is on the show.
Okay.
We have Larry the Cable Guy we've had on, Jeff Foxworthy, Nate Bargatze, Bert Kreischer. We get a lot of crazy interviews, and we have a lot of fun segments. One of my favorite segments that we do, I did a lot of acting back in my day, and right now they're airing a lot of reruns because there's nothing new to be made.
Yeah.
So I'm getting more residual checks than I've ever gotten. And so we made a game out of it. I'll come in with an envelope. I'll tell the guys, I'll go, all right, whoever can guess this correctly wins the game. But if you get it exactly right, I'm going to give you the check. And sometimes that check, sometimes they're a nickel, but sometimes they're like $8,000. So no one's gotten it exactly right, but it's a fun game that we call How Much Is That Screen Actors Guild Residual Check?
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's great. And so how can we find you on social media? Are you out there on Instagram, Twitter?
Jon Reep. Can I type in this thing?
You not where people can see it.
Okay. Jon. Yeah, that's it right there. JonReep.com, @Jon Reep. That's everything. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All of it's verified. I'm out there.
Got that blue check.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Jon, this has been an awesome way to end the first season of Breaking Down Bits. Thanks for taking us, kind of backstage and all the up and coming tips and things about we can learn from being, trying to get into that road game. And for sharing your comedy today. Absolutely amazing.
My pleasure, guys. I can't wait to see what's next. I'd like to get you on my podcast, too.
We're game.
From East Texas, I'm country-ish. Let's do it.
Everyone's got levels, right?
Thanks, Jon. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Drew, we did it, man. Season 1 is in the books.
Yes, that feels so good. This podcast has really grown I think a lot from the beginning to just 10 episodes in. Thank you again for the feedback that we're getting on social media, and that feels so good to us. Thanks for getting involved in the middle of the episode, sharing your questions. If you do have more feedback and you haven't shared it yet, we're gonna take this thing down, let it rest for a little bit of time, get back into season 2 as soon as we can, and hopefully better than ever.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback. If you want to follow us, or you're required, if you're listening now, you have to follow us on at Breaking Down Bits, except for Twitter. I couldn't fit the S in, so it's just at Breaking Down Bit. So we'll break down one bit. You can also email us anytime, breakingdownbits@gmail.com. We're going to do a couple small projects in between seasons, so look out for that. We're going to have some announcements of some of our guests coming up. We're going to continue to book great names. It's been incredible, the cast of people that we've put into season 1. Big accomplishment for both of us to be able to put that together. 10 hours of great content, share it with other comedians, new comedians. We try to do something for people at all levels, and I've got a ton out of this. I've grown as a comic, and I'm excited to continue to grow alongside all of y'all.
Yeah, big thanks to everyone who's watched any of these things. All the support means a lot. Shoot us your suggestions for who we should get on the show, how we can make it better. Brian, you're an amazing partner. I had a blast doing season 1, and hopefully we're going to come back even better with season 2 in just a few weeks.
We'll catch you guys in a little bit for season 2. This has been Breaking Down Bits, season 1 finale.
Woo!
Thanks for listening to Breaking Down Bits. You can keep in touch or get more when you follow at Breaking Down Bits on social media, visit the website breakingdownbits.com, or shoot us an email at breakingdownbits@gmail.com.